Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is my first ever YouTube video. I have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, but the first video is not really about getting something good. It's just about getting something done, to get started, to get the ball rolling. You see what I mean? Yeah. So right now what you can see me doing on screen, at normal speed, because I think this process deserves to be at normal speed, is just the very basic head construction of our character. Right now, after blocking in a shape for the nose with a simple circle, I go in to detail it a little bit further. Sadly, you can't really see exactly what I'm doing because I'm using a very light pencil. This is a 5H pencil. I like this for sketching, to keep myself really light and loose. But I will definitely have to change that in the future for having better quality videos. And if my humongous head stopped getting in the way, it would also be pretty nice. There you go, the camera is focusing again, and you can see me getting the facial hair in place. I think this really is supposed to look pretty fancy, like an aged gentleman 1920s vibe. And that is just about going to do it, as I block in the shape for the ear and do a couple of details. I refine a little bit more the shape of the head, because when you're going for a cartoon style, the most important thing is blocking out the basic shapes. Like, this is the foundation of everything you're gonna do. See, for the little bit of hair this fancy man has left, I just did a basic square, and that's effective enough to communicate that idea. Same thing for the hat that I'm doing right now. Every fancy gentleman needs a good top hat, right? Well, what is a top hat? It's just a circle with a cone on top. That's it. And there you go. I'm just gonna fill in the shape to define it a little bit more and make my sketch a little bit more clear. Good. Now these two circles I'm doing right now are a pretty simple construction technique I like to use when drawing the human head, whether it is for cartoons or more realistic stuff. It's just the eye sockets. Because the human skull is not just a flat surface, you actually have holes in it for the eyeballs, and I like to symbolize them with this to be able to visualize what the skull is supposed to look like before distorting it. Simple closed eyes to give him a pretty happy look. Add a little bit more graphite to the hat, and that's gonna be about it for the head. I think he looks cute, that's good. I just add a couple of details to make him look a bit aged, a bit like a wise old man. He has seen stuff. Right now, the video is speeding up because the process is going to be taking a lot longer. This is the body construction. Same thing, use basic shapes. Everybody tells you this. You know why? Because it's right. Like, it's literally what you have to do. So right now, you can see that I exaggerated pretty heavily the curve of the spine. Your spine is actually not a straight line. It does an S shape. So you can see for the torso, that basic triangular-ish rectangle is coming pretty far forward before the pelvis curving back out. I think that gives quite a lot of energy in a very simple way. You can't really see the effect, but if it wasn't there, it wouldn't look nearly as cool. Oops, redoing the hand right here. I went a little bit too big. This is a very simple technique for drawing hands. Just group the four fingers that are not the thumb together. It makes your life so much easier because hands are annoying to draw. I'm probably gonna make a video on them in the future because I'm very much a student in art, where I'm just learning alongside you, and that kind of video would help the both of us massively. And there you go, after giving him a little fancy suit, simple shoes, and a beautiful bow tie, and a little bit of a cane to make him look more fancy, I move on. Boom! Inking. Sounds pretty fancy, huh? So right now, I'm just gonna be starting with a very basic line art. I don't really do that usually. This is just a 0.4 fineliner. I like to do my lines with my Tombow brush pen because I think it's awesome, but right now I'm gonna try something a little bit different. I'm gonna try to give this guy some very solid black shadows, kind of comic book style shading. You know what I mean? Like in comic books where they're like solid black to indicate the shadow and define shapes. Well, I think that's very cool. I don't really know if it's gonna fit the aesthetic of this guy, but I'm just gonna try. Like, if it doesn't look good, let's be honest, you're watching this video, you're probably the only one, so I'm not gonna disappoint anybody. Like I said, the first video is not about making something good, it's about fucking making something. Because if I try to make it perfect, I'm never gonna do anything, and that's not what I want to do. So there you go. What you can see me do right here is block out the areas that I want to be completely black. I don't put too much black right now because I want that cute aesthetic. And I don't really know if the black is gonna mess it up. I'm just gonna try anyways, and really define the shadows across the whole character, with the light coming from the right slightly behind him. As you can see, I also do some hatching, and I hesitated a little bit when putting on his face. I didn't really know if I wanted to do it on his face, but I just said, screw it, let's try and see what happens. And that's what I do. My beautiful Tombow brush pen coming in to finish the job. I started with the face because it's what I was the most worried about, so I just said, fuck it, let's do it. And it actually looks decently clean, you know what? I'm not sure about the shadow on the cheekbone, but I think the overall result is pretty nice. I move on to put ink on the entire character to give him that really crisp comic book look, but keeping really loose with that soft tip of this brush pen. It's so good in order to keep this cute look. The shading on the costume is also very important to indicate one thing that is very easy to overlook: the folds of the fabric. Because the fabric folds pretty easily when it's clothed. Like, every time you move, you fold it a little bit. So I just decided to make them simple enough, but to communicate what it is. Like, just enough detail to communicate that they are folds, but not making it too fancy. As I move on to finish adding all the black areas, really crisp, being sure not to let any little white dots around, because I want all of it to be clean. Finishing up with the hand and the belt. Right now, what I'm gonna do is take my 0.1 Micron Fineliner and do some hatching across the whole character. This is a very good technique to use. I'm just learning to get good at it, and I want to implement it right there because I think it's very fun. To sort of gradient the black out into the white of the paper before going in with the color. And I also use it to texture the hair and the mustache and the beautiful beard. And final touch with the inks, I take my trusty brush pen and go to do a thick outline around the entire character to give him that very cartoon look. Ink the shoe because I forgot to do it like earlier, and really ground him on the paper with that thick outline. Strong silhouette is a very good design element when you're doing cartoons, remember that. Yeah, erasing, pretty boring, just skip ahead. That was cringe. And this pen, I'm showing it to you, do you know why? Because it's complete trash. I'm not exaggerating. This pen is literally a black pen. It's supposed to be a black pencil, but it sucks. Like, it's so bad. The good thing is, because it's so bad, it gives roughly the same tone as a 2B pencil or something like this, but because it's a color pencil, it does not smudge around and doesn't layer on top of the ink like a pencil would do. So, the very bad pencil became actually the ideal tool for the job of this little man's suit. Erasing my mistake with a small eraser because I'm stupid. Texturing in the hair and moving on to the skin tone. It was my fancy soft peach pencil. The nice thing with this shading method is that you don't really need to get shading with the colors because the ink already does the job. It's simple and effective enough. Saying that, I go back to the ink before this pencil actually has a lot of wax in it, so it kind of layers on top of the ink. Giving it a pop of color on the bow tie and the thing wrapping around the hat in red and a nice blue cane. To finish everything up, take this icy gray pencil to shade in very lightly the shots, just details. Add a golden shine to the belt button. And that's gonna be about it for the colors. This guy needs a name, don't you think? He gives me Alfred vibes. Yeah, there you go, Alfred. Awesome. Well, that's gonna be the end of the video. If you watched it, you're probably the only one, but I appreciate the effort of watching 10 minutes of me doing cringe shit. Please subscribe to learn alongside with me, and have a nice day.